Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, journeyers.
Yay.
Happy Monday, Emily.
Happy Monday, Shannon.
Yay.
Good to see
You know
your
what time
face.
It's 4 o'clock Central Time.
5 o'clock Eastern Time.
Which means, and it's Monday, which means it's
on and off the topic time.
On and off the topic time. Ooh.
What's our topic today?
Yes, what is our topic? It also is a new theme.
Right.
Just FYI, the theme is something good that I'll tell you it's risk. It's risk.
It's risk. Excellent. Our theme is risk. Our yearly theme is exploration. So we're talking about like risks in terms of exploring. Yes. And our theme for today is why do we enjoy risk on stage, but not off? And how does improv teach us to enjoy it in both places? Those are two excellent questions about risk.
Thanks a lot.
And when we say risk, we mean it like in the conceptual sense, not in like the board game sense. Like you might like the board game Risk, but that's not what we're talking about.
It's today. A long game, y'all. Risk, the board game, is long.
I've never played it, actually.
I tried to play it once, and people who play board games with me get annoyed.
Good, great.
You know, because I'm an improviser, and I don't care about these blue die. Like, just throw them over there and add some ham into this mix. Yes, every time we say the word strawberry, we have to eat a piece of ham. We're like, there's none of that makes any sense. I'm like, yeah.
That's board game night at Shannon's house.
Lots
of ham
so
and strawberries.
Much ham just flying around, strawberries everywhere. Why do we enjoy risk?
Risk. You know, and I think that's a great question because I don't know about you, but I know a bunch of improvisers who are excellent improvisers, performers. Love playing with them, love watching them. But then off stage, there's a lot of like more rigidity than I would expect for an improviser. You know what I mean? A lot of playing it safe. A lot of this is the way things have always been done.
Yes.
I see a lot of that.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, it is the mentality. We forget that improv is a practice space. And I understand. I was actually just having lunch with a friend of mine, an improviser, who was saying, you know, sometimes he goes into rehearsals and he's looking around and he's like, oh, we're really just doing improv for the sake of improv. And he's looking for a little bit more, right? And so we talked about that. And yeah, you can do improv for the sake of entertaining an audience, for the sake of entertaining yourself. But here at Improv On and Off the Stage, we really like to dig deep into the transferable skills that improv can help us with. And when we talk about this thing, you know, this rigidity that you find in some people when they leave the improv stage, I think really we forget that improv is a place where we can practice. And this is where we're practicing when the stakes are low, so we can achieve when the stakes are high. Achieving things when the stakes are high, to me, high stakes are out there, off the improv stage, you know, job, family. And I'm not talking like high stakes, like, whoa, I have to do it. It's more like
there are real life consequences where there aren't really any on stage. My vacuum is once again about to dispose of all of its contents very loudly in the middle of our recording session because I forgot to pause it in time.
Yep, go back.
So hang on. You keep talking.
I'll keep talking. Yes. Risk high. Risk is high out here, like in the world. And it doesn't have to be something that is completely like new job or promotion or it can be, am I being kind? How am I handling day-to-day surprises, things like this? And I think just to start this part, why do we enjoy risk on stage? On stage, it's because there aren't actual huge consequences, right? We're just tell this story about the on and off dragon. We need little pins.
Little dragons.
Dragon pins.
Yeah.
This dragon. But we're going to tell the story about the dragon on the mountain, whatnot, and then we're going to leave it there. The curtain's going to go down, the lights are going to come off, the theater's going to close, and you're going to go home. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. But if we just take it a little further, when we are taking risks in that story, however we're telling that story, and we're practicing taking little risks, what else can this dragon be? Something else. Maybe it's not an on and off dragon today. Maybe it's a worm with wings. Yeah. Which, when I think about it, it's pretty much just a dragon, Emily.
But a very small dragon.
Very small dragon.
Now it's a tiny dragon.
It's a tiny dragon. But you get to practice taking the risk. And then when you start practicing, when you do it more and more on stage, the feeling, the feel of what it feels like to take a risk, what it feels like to be supported, what it feels like not to have everything crumble under you. Just that feeling will follow you into life, and you'll start to behave in a way, or at least you'll start to feel better about taking smaller risks off stage, and then maybe even bigger risks, and a little bigger and a little bigger.
I think one of the challenges, though, and I think why we see so many improvisers who haven't quite made that jump is the environment around them, and how often, like what you just said, when we're on stage and we take little risks, we get supported, right? Mm-hmm. Part of the reason why the consequences aren't really punitive is because of the environment that we build, right? Where people support each other and they're like, yeah, your weird idea was great. And they build on it and they yes and each other. And we really reinforce that behavior, right? But in the real world, in the offstage world, that's a little rarer. And so I think it's harder for people to be able to generalize that behavior into a different setting, right? Because the contingencies there are just different. Not only can the stakes be higher, but you're more likely to be met with some sort of punitive consequence instead of being celebrated for your riskiness.
Yeah. And so we have to choose where we take our risks, even on stage, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there are ways to take risks with our stories and our characters, and being a supportive improviser, like being Shannon Stott on the stage. Like, what do I want to try today that's different than how I usually show up on stage? And if we can practice, if we can do those little things so that it doesn't throw off the entire story, we're still getting in that practice. And one of the things that's coming to mind is just speaking up for oneself in general, off stage, in your community, in your job, at your home, just speaking up for yourself. And an easy way, real easy way that I'm thinking about this is in restaurants. Have you ever, anytime that somehow you either didn't get what you wanted, didn't say anything, or ordered something different because somebody was like, no, you should try it. And you're like, I don't like cheese, but this cheese on this bread, this cheesy bread, you'll love. And you're like, in order just to shoot you, I'll order the cheesy bread. And then you go, cheesy bread.
Yeah, delicious. I believe one of my biggest toxic traits is not correcting Chipotle workers when they put the wrong meat in my burrito. And so I super resonate with this. Because this has happened, I think, twice in a row when I've been to Chipotle that they have put the wrong protein in my burrito. And I say nothing.
First off, come on, Chipotle. Get on it.
Get it together. When I say the least spiciest protein and you grab what I'm pretty sure is the exact opposite of what I said. So, but, and so I think when we're thinking about the contingencies surrounding that, like, obviously, like, Chipotle's not going to eject me from their store forever, right? Yeah. But for me, contextually, I feel a whole lot of, I have the fear of looking like a Karen.
There
right?
it is. Yes, yes. I knew.
I have the haircut. I like. I am a mom now, so like I'm checking all these boxes of a Karen, right? And that's the sort of thing where I'm conscious of frequently when I'm at a restaurant or I'm interacting with people who are in these jobs that are public facing jobs where they probably get a lot of crap from a lot of people, right? And so I have a difficulty with taking the risk of correcting someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the environment, I think. Because I'm aware of who I am, what I look like, and how I fit into the context of this environment where this Chipotle worker probably did get yelled at by a Karen yesterday.
Right.
And I'm not about to put that on them. So yeah. I will eat your incredibly spicy.
No, see, we can't teach this. This is the thing we can't teach.
We can't teach it. Listen, so I'm not saying don't be like me. Don't be like me, guys.
We can't teach this.
But I think it's important to be aware of those sorts of things, right? So that we can mitigate them.
Right. Because we have to practice. We have to practice these things, because what ends up happening, and I'm assuming what ends up happening is this trait will show up in other places. And on a bad week, you can one can not necessarily Emily, but one can go through something where you didn't speak up once, you got not what you ordered, then the trait shows up again, you don't get fill in the blank, then the trait shows up again and you don't get, or you get your feelings hurt, whatever it is. And at the end of the week, someone's like, you're like, hey, can you wash the dishes? And they're like, I'm feeling a little tired. You're like, just do one thing for me for one time. Just one thing. It can like
yeah.
It can build and build. And so yes, one, figuring out where you need to practice. Yes. And as an improviser, also understanding that place, the improv stage, is a good place to practice so that you can, like, one, stand up for yourself, and two, mitigate the environment. Understand, okay, sure, maybe this isn't the environment. Maybe it's fine. Today, spicy Chipotle.
But tomorrow, actually, the protein I want.
Yeah. It's such a big deal, I feel.
Yeah. But I think that also what you just said is really important, to know that it's not always one or the other, right? It shouldn't be always one or the other. It shouldn't always be like, well, now you have to stand up for yourself in every single setting ever, period. Right?
No.
and so I think the environment is important to recognize. The contingencies surrounding it is important to realize, and then also my favorite word, the values surrounding it, right? Um, there's, I think, a difference between not correcting someone when they put spicy chicken in your burrito, that you're just going to take home, and you know that you have like a husband who will eat your burrito if you don't want it, and like a PB&J in the fridge, like you'll figure it out. There's a difference between that and something like your boss being like, well, this is the project that you're going to have to do, even though you have plans and you have to do this thing. I think
Yes.
those are two different scenarios with two different responses, right? Where I can't even, where the stakes are higher in both, right? But also the what's important to you is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that talking about those two differences, especially where the difference in stakes, leads me into this. How does improv teach us to enjoy it in both places, it being a little bit of risk? And yes, we do talk about values all the time here, but it is important, because when you have values in general, you should have some.
Yeah. One or
Right?
two.
One or two values. But when you have them and you are in practice of holding to those values, you start to feel joy in your life, right? You're like, because your boss tells you this is the project you're going to manage, and by golly, I'm going to play golf because hey. So they go, whatever, but you get to say, thank you so much, however you say this. Thank you so very much for thinking of me for this project. Unfortunately, I'm unable to be there for it.
Yeah.
So you'll have to find someone else.
Like, unfortunately, my sister's wedding's next weekend, and
Right.
that's more important to me than this project.
And when you're doing that, because you know what your values are, right? My values are supporting family. My values, and we also talk about flexibility and values, flexibility in anything. But in this world where going to your sister's wedding is very important to you because you've said you were going to support family or whatnot, you can feel such joy at that wedding instead of guilt or sadness or the turmoil that it takes to say no to one thing. And then you're doing that thing where you're telling your sister, yeah, I had to put aside a project to come here. You're telling all the guests at the wedding.
Yeah. Right? Like, oh, I should be doing this thing at work. But what you did was you chose the thing that mattered more to you. I mean, if the thing that matters more to you, and it could, maybe this is your sister's 7th marriage, and maybe this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Maybe you do want to choose the work thing instead.
Absolutely.
And that's fine.
It's good.
Right? As long as that is genuinely the thing that's important to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why do we enjoy risk on stage? Why do we enjoy risk on stage? Okay, we enjoy risk on stage because it's fun.
It's fun.
Take a risk.
It's a little bit of danger.
It is.
A little bit a haunted house roller coaster.
Yeah.
A little bit of thrill.
It is. And but not off. The risk is not. It is not fun to take, but the practice. How does improv teach us to enjoy it in both? Let's talk about that a little bit. What does improv do in our brains that teaches us to enjoy taking a little bit of risk?
Well, I mean, we talked about it, like, practicing it in a safer environment, but I think when we work those muscles to kind of think creatively and a little bit riskier about our situation, we can also see different options in our world.
That's
We also
big.
like learn how to play with real life situations and scenarios, right? And we learn how to like I like to say at work that my superpower is finding the fun
Yes.
in all the things. And I think that's because we learn how to see patterns and we learn how to see games. And in that way, we make it a little bit fun.
Mm-hmm.
What other people might see as like risky, that I'm making up a song to entertain this small child that I'm hanging out with. Uh, I mean, I guess it's a little risky that I might embarrass myself in front of my coworkers, but I
Mm-hmm.
find that fun because I practice those things and I think it's fun and silly and it makes me laugh.
Ooh. The word you said right there was practice. I know we've already said this word a lot, but it just made me think about when when we are taking risks, we tend to think, especially off stage, that makes it not fun. It always feels 100% new. Like the thing that we're doing or the risk that we're about to take, it's like completely new. What will I do? I've never experienced this. How, you know? But if we think about it and break it up into chunks, yes, we find that, oh, well, I know what it's like to order a burrito.
Mhm.
But like I'm trying to think of any, just get a new job in general or a transfer jobs, right? Okay, maybe I'll release this job and follow my other passions. That feels very, very risky. But what about following your other passions do you already know? And what are the smaller chunks in taking the risk? And if you decide, oh, okay, this is too big a risk, just dropping a complete job and doing this other thing is too big a risk. What are the little chunks that I can play with that get me closer to that risk, you know?
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and I feel like improv helps with that as well, because we bite off smaller chunks. We're not here to, oh, Little Red Riding Hood's walking through the forest and here comes a goat. That's fine. That's a little risk. Like, I feel like it's fine. That's fine. But we can play with that.
The famous big bad goat in
The
fairy
big
tales.
bad goat, right? But I think there are little, she's walking through the forest and now she has suddenly poof, she has a tail and she's a mermaid on land and she can't breathe because mermaid. We're like, okay, this is too big.
Mhm. That's true. We do learn to think about, um, when we're telling stories, to think about the next logical step,
Yes.
right? The if this is true, then what else is
What
true,
else is true?
in kind of like very simple
Mm-hmm.
one after another things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so I think you're right. I think we can look at those like big risky things and be able to break that down into some things that are smaller and achievable.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about what's the next logical step, we are the next logical step can be an asinine step.
Mhm.
It can feel very big and strange, right? Okay, there's a goat. What, the wolf is gone. There's a goat. Fine, fine. But what's the next step? Little Red Riding Hood has come across this goat. Well, what is she gonna do? She probably might take it home, milk it,
Mhm.
find its parents. I mean, there are a billion. Where are your parents, go? Where are your kids? Huh? You
Boo.
see? Okay. I don't know why that one didn't just come up first. Oh, I'm out of practice. But yeah, it really helps. It really helps because we're not so far off the beaten path. And
Yeah.
then one last thing on that, going back to values, absolutely it's the same thing, right? Where we can say, all right, what are my values? What's my next, what do I value? And so what is my next logical step within that value system?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, when we think about values, it's a direction, not a destination,
Boom.
right? So what's the step in that direction?
In that direction. Ooh, it's big. I feel like, oh yeah, risk. I'm really thinking about just all the things, future risks, and where we're going on and off the stage is taking all sorts of risks right now. We did so many shows last year. We're taking a risk, live shows specifically, taking a risk and not having live shows this year and what that means. And it can feel we've got a little bit of time when you are in the midst of taking a risk, right? Because sometimes we take a risk and whatever the risk is, it has long-term consequences. And so we're trying to live within that. It can feel sort of murky in there. Yeah. It can feel real like,
because we don't know what's happening. I mean, in like our situation specifically, right? Because I took a risk by stepping back significantly. By, because I popped a human out of me. And
so easy, just like that.
Yeah. And it turns out that makes extracurriculars very difficult to maintain. And so that was kind of a risk, and it is murky because we don't know I don't know what it's gonna look like at the end of the year. I don't know what a year from now, what things are gonna look like. But the best we can do is just take one step at a time, take that next logical step, right? And that's just like on the stage. No way when you start a scene do you know what it's going to end up like.
You don't.
You shouldn't. If you do, you're doing it wrong.
You are doing scripted work.
Yep. You're doing a thing that's not improv.
It's not improv.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to keep that in mind too in real life, that we don't always know how it's going to turn out.
No, we don't always know. And there are things that you can do within that murkiness to have a good time, right? Like, oh, I don't know what this stretch is, but hey, we're still putting out videos. We're still having these conversations on Mondays. We're still looking at ACT, and what that means and how it influences us. As you are sitting in risk, as you have made a choice, a risky choice, and you're sitting in the consequences of that choice on stage, that looks like people supporting you, creating the story, because now it's taken this fun, different, unexpected turn. And off stage, it also looks like that. Yeah. And even if you don't have people supporting you through this unexpected turn, you support yourself. What does it look like now that I am riding my bike to work every day instead of driving my car and it's raining? Oh no, fun can I, what fun places can I find? What different routes can I accomplish? What is a different journey that I can be on?
Yep. Beautiful. Perfect. All right, journeyers. That's our time.
It is our time.
So next week we'll talk more about risk. So go take some risks and have fun doing it.
Yes, on and
off the stage.
Bye. Bye. you.